Well, hello and welcome to episode 4 of GoWCUS. This is the show where we're going to talk about WordCamp US and all things Nashville leading up to WordCamp, which is on November 30th, December 1st?
December 1st through the 3rd.
December 1st? Sorry, December 1st through the 3rd. I don't
We're
I'm really
early. You have to be here November 30th.
I will actually be there, I think, on the 29th. So
even better.
Anyway, yeah, that's why the dates are mixed up in my head. Anyway. We're going to start with intros as we do every week. And real quick, the hashtag. So if you want to tweet at us or about us, it is hashtag GoWCUS. Feel free to ask questions during the show. We are watching. So let's go ahead and start with intros. And I'll turn it over to Brett.
Hey, I'm Brett Shoemaker. I'm from Nashville here, and I am on the speaker team this year for WordCamp US.
Welcome to the show. Dustin.
Yeah, I am Dustin Mesa. I'm the lead organizer for WordCamp US here in Nashville, and I work for WP Engine.
Laura.
I am Laura Byrne-Cristiano. I am from New York originally, now living in Philly, and I'm part of the marketing team here on WordCamp US. And I think my goal on this hangout is to broadcast from a different, unusual space each week.
You have a shower curtain behind you, but you are not in a bathroom.
I do, and you are correct. It's like, yay, Airbnb. I'm at, shout out to WordCamp Portland. I'm going to be, I'm in an Airbnb with lots of other people right now who are chanting in the background. This is me broadcasting from my Airbnb, which has used the very high-tech shower curtain as the wallpaper.
It's residence roulette over there. Anyway, I'm Steve Zenkit. I am the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup. I'm also the lead organizer of WordCamp Orange County, and I'm on the sponsor team for WordCamp US. So real quick, we still have some booths open. So if anybody out there is looking for sponsorship, feel free to reach out to me. Laura, do we want to talk about speakers?
Yeah, and actually just to piggyback on what you're saying, Steve, I know the sponsorships are going super fast. Like, guys, if you're looking for this, do not wait. I seriously mean this. It's not going to be available in 2 weeks. You got to get on this right now.
Thank you.
Speakers, we've had 6 rounds thus far of speakers. There will be more out next week, which is fantastic. We're doing like 5, 6 at a time. They're diverse. They're from all over the country and, in fact, around the globe, appealing to you, whether you're a developer, a blogger, a designer, lots of variety. And we'll get into this more during the show. Happy with who we've announced, and please check it out on our site, and please check it out on Twitter. We've tried to put all their Twitter handles out there. You can know how to follow them, get a little preview of what they're talking about. I think it's a great way to get to know who you're going to see live and on stage is by checking them out on social media.
That's awesome. And tickets are on sale?
They sure are. $40 a pop, guys. You cannot beat the bargain that this is. Like, seriously, there's no conference. You can get 2 full days of speakers, be fed, rock an after party, great chance to network. You know, $40, you can't beat that anywhere, and that's thanks to our amazing sponsors that we're able to give that to people. So shout out to those sponsors.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk about speaker submissions. Dustin, this was your brainchild. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of as I talked about last week, I was a speaker at lots of different WordCamps, and one thing that I kind of real tough nut to crack was kind of, what is WordCamp US looking for? What is, what's the right talk for there, and who's the right person, and everything like that. And one of the things I kind of said to myself as a goal for, other than putting on the best damn, WordCamp US ever, I wanted to bring some clarity around speakers and speaker submissions. And that's kind of what we're going to do here. So Brett is from the speaking team, and we're going to have Brett talk a little bit about the process. And then all of us are going to talk about kind of what makes a great submission. And we'll be able to reuse this next year when we call for speakers, and they'll be able to watch this. So think ahead, because you're talking to the future here, guys. But yeah, Brett, why don't you give us a little insight into the process?
Okay. All right. So what we started with this year was, 562 or 3 submissions, I think. And from there, the kind of the core speaker team, like the four of us, we got together on a hangout, and Cami, we spent about 4 hours on a call the first time going through all of these submissions. And this was after everyone on the organizing team for WordCamp US has, voted on every talk, thumbs up or thumbs down. I mean, it was a lot of time.
I just have to say, wow, like 4 hours, like I was not even aware that you guys were on that for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And not to put too fine of a point on it, nobody's being paid. This is volunteer work, and wow, I did not even realize that, and I'm part of the team. Like, kudos to you guys.
For sure. Brett, talk just a little bit about kind of that thumbs up, thumbs down process that the whole organizing team went through, kind of what that looked like for us.
Yeah, so we wanted to do, kind of some blind voting on things, so you're not kind of swayed by who submitted the talk or, anything like that. And so we went through and edited the code on our submission website. So we hid all of the speaker information, so you couldn't see it. It was not possible. It wasn't displayed. So we hid all of that from everyone. And then we told the whole team, hey, go out. You had the ability to give a talk thumbs up or thumbs down. And that really just kind of acted, 2 thumbs up and a thumbs down equals you had a score of 1. So after that process, we had, scores of, up to, I think, 12 or 13 for the talks. So
Nice.
Everyone kind of went through and spent a lot of time doing that as well, going through every submission and voting on every single one.
Important to note too is those, as you said, there was like 12 or so of us that were looking at it beyond like you guys who were like the core speaker team. And each one of us comes from a different perspective. Each one of us has something that we do. Some of us are developers, some of us are designers. We're all coming at this from a different point of view. So you can't say that, oh, it was very designer heavy or developer heavy or content creator heavy. It was a very great mixture of people with a variety of experiences and talents who were weighing in on these, as you said, 563 talks.
Yeah, so, everybody voted. And then at that point is when we, kind of did like a big database export of all of the talks, all of the information. And that's where that 4-hour, Zoom session took place, where the core speaker team and Cami, we all got on and we spent our evening going through, we sorted all the talks by, the votes, the number of votes, and then we started going through and started kind of, if someone had multiple talks that were voted highly, we kind of just tried to decide which one we thought would be the best fit for the conference that we wanted to put on. So we, eliminated some talks that way. And then a lot of talks, had a similar subject.
Sure.
The other one I like, sorry, go ahead, Dustin.
I just remember that, going through
the
and
abstracts.
going through and voting, I remember seeing lots of talks that were of very similar nature. Things like, mental health or security and things like that. So, Brett, you guys had to kind of go through and say, all right, which one of these is best for the community? And, obviously if they've separated themselves with votes, it's kind of easier, but you guys had a real job to kind of say, which one, which topic should we make sure is represented and everything like that, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we had, a list of all of the, the various focuses that you could select from when you were submitting, kind of there with us. And we were trying to make sure that we had a good representation of all of those in our final list.
One thing that I also liked to kind of help you get into that list too, as we were talking, there's all the voting. We each of us had what I call sort of our golden ticket superpower card. If you've seen any of those reality shows, America's Got Talent, X Factor, or whatever, there's sort of that golden ticket moment where you automatically advance to the final round. Each one of us had that sort of golden ticket super vote. So if there was just one talk that just blew us away, and we were like, this has to be there. And like I said, each of us came from our own expertise, my personal expertise being marketing and SEO. I know there was one marketing SEO talk that I went, this one is the best one. And that was where I used my super vote. And I'm sure other people probably came at things from the same level and I didn't know who wrote it. Legit didn't know who wrote it at the time. I now know who wrote it. But I think that was a cool option we had also, just to kind of advance something that was very much within our wheelhouse and say, hey, maybe somebody else might overlook this if they're not a marketing person or a developer or whatever, but this should really be into that final consideration. I thought that was a cool option we had also.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about the blind submission process is it introduces a lot of new speakers, right? So you don't see the same speakers over and over again that you might see at other WordCamps, right? And it gives a nice opportunity for new speakers to speak at WordCamp US.
Yeah,
right.
That was
And
a
that's not to
comment.
say
It
we
was
don't
kind of
have
a question, kind of a comment.
Yeah, and that's not to say we don't have old timers, but it's a really great way of equaling that playing field of
Absolutely.
Celebrity, if you will, gender bias, region bias. It's a really great way of kind of putting that on an equal, or hopefully an equalish playing field.
Yeah, and that's the goal. We do the same thing at WordCamp Orange County. And one of the things that I liked, again, our speaker selection process is very similar to what Brett just described. One of the things I liked is the speakers who wrote a description that matched our theme kind of rose to the top, and we noticed a lot of speakers were able, sort of gamed the system, because we had a comic book theme. If they wrote something that sort of fit a comic booky type of thing, it didn't matter what the subject was. They just sort of naturally rose to the top because everybody gravitated toward that. It was interesting.
Nice. That's funny. I don't think I saw anyone write a Nashville themed talk, so I think we were safe from that.
But you know what I like, Steve, though? That speaks to me of dedication and being enthusiastic and not phoning it in. Like, to me, like, if you're excited about what you're doing, if you've really taken the time to think about what your title is, what your pitch is, like, that so comes through no matter what your title is, your abstract is. And when you have over 500 applications, things like that stand out. And it really does make a difference sometimes. And then that's not to say, if you didn't have a gimmick, you're not in. That's totally not true. But stuff like that, when you're really passionate and creative, it totally comes out versus, like, here's something that probably isn't very helpful. Again, consider we have over 500. If somebody's description is, I'm going to talk about security, here's a link to watch me on YouTube.
It's not gonna work. No, and this is a good takeaway for anybody that's watching this that is submitting to WordCamp US or in the future or other WordCamps, right? I think it's important to personalize it to the camp that you're submitting to, because if you write one description and blast it out to 100 camps, right, it's just the same thing over and over again. You need to find a way to stand out, and I think that is important. And you're right, your title and your description matter, and if you are passionate about it, it is gonna help you rise to the top.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a friend of a friend was on one of those reality shows, The Biggest Loser, and they get so many people who pitch things. And the woman who was trying to get a spot on it, she was basically a manager at like a Bed Bath & Beyond kind of store. And when they were going around the room saying, well, what does each one of you do? And someone's going, and whatever they are, they got to her and they're like, what do you do? And she said, I sell comfort. And it got the people's attention because it was just a little different. It was passionate. It made her seem like she thought about something. She was looking to sell herself and to be engaging and interesting. And she said of the 15 people who were in that round, she was the only one that advanced. And there's a little bit of a takeaway there, I think.
So I'm gonna share a secret with you. I was on several game shows in the 80s. I don't think anybody knows this, and there is a trick to it, right? So what they do is they'll put a few hundred people in a room and they'll give you 5 seconds to introduce yourself, right? And if you get up and say, "Hey, I'm Steve. How's it going?" Right? You're done. You're bounced. So you have to do something that stands out. I'm not gonna. Okay. On one game show, I wrote a rap on the spot. So I literally wrote a rap about Chuck Woolery. And
please tell me there is video of this.
I sure hope not. When they called my name, I stood up on my chair and I rapped about Chuck Woolery, and I was in. It was a piece of cake.
2 and 2. He was in.
No. It wasn't the love connection. It was Scrabble. Thank you.
That's fantastic. So I mean, these are all. I mean, these anecdotes are actually all very kind of. We can tie them back to the speakers. So, you talk about, you just say your name and like, hey, I'm Steve, I'm from Orange County. It's not good enough. We saw some ones where people claimed to be experts in something, but they didn't give us any kind of real proof. And so that's important. If you are going to claim to be an expert, say why. So I have a talk about WordPress upgrades. And when I have a section that's like, why should you even listen to me? And, I've been in charge of over 2 million upgrades. I've been upgrading for over, 4 years. Like, it's those things that I try to include to let people know, like, hey, I just didn't upgrade WordPress yesterday. I've been doing this for a long time. And so that's important. Brett, why don't you talk a little bit about, the ones you saw that maybe were kind of stood out, maybe that helped?
I mean, really the ones that stood out the most to me were the ones who, really went through the process of what they were going to talk about and why it was important to them to speak about that topic. And then again, like Dustin was saying, any type of, kind of proof that you're qualified to speak on that subject. Those are the ones that stood out the most to us. Definitely. And I mean, humor is always going to stand out a little bit as well. Just kind of giving like a copy paste description of, what you're going to talk about, is not, 2 or 3 sentences. I mean, you're not going to get anyone excited in 2 or 3 sentences about your topic. Yeah. So,
I mean, the other thing is too, like, you can do everything right. And at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. Right. Maybe, I'm coming at this too, probably as a person who's been involved in performing arts and in theater and film pretty much her whole life. And sometimes you give the most amazing audition, you get down through callbacks, you were there at the end, and then they go with the other person. And it's not that you did anything quote unquote wrong. It's just the mix, it's subjective. And I know it sucks when you're not picked. Like, understand, been there at that door more times than I can count. But it just, and I know it's like hard sometimes not to take that personally because it feels like a personal rejection, but it really, really isn't. So I would just encourage people to go out there and do it. As much as I always throw myself out there on audition, like, go out there and keep pitching talks, keep doing it, because sometimes it's going to be the right appeal, the item they need. It absolutely is. It's not per se you did something wrong. Sometimes it's just a numbers game.
Yeah. And another point to the numbers game is, on that first 4-hour call that we did, we cut it down to about 125 submissions. And there were several where I was like, man, I really don't want to cut this talk, but like, I have to, like, we have to get it down to this number.
Yeah. So it's not a week-long WordCamp.
Right. So, I mean, it definitely did come down to a numbers game, because like there were several talks where I was just like, man, I don't want this to get cut, but we have to.
Yeah. One of the things that I can say as a reviewer of a lot of these, right? I've reviewed at my own camp, I've reviewed here, I've reviewed for other people's camps, is don't make this submission too long, right? The descriptions shouldn't be too long, because you have to think the person who's going through them is going through several hundred, right? So if it's too long, it's going to be a TLDR situation, right? Also, don't make it too short. Right, too short has the same effect. So a couple paragraphs, right, yeah. Succinct. But I think the point is, no matter the length, it really should have a focus, right? Just keep it to the point, focused on what you're talking about, and get your point across as succinctly as possible.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd also say too is show it to somebody who is not per se a WordPress person. Like, see if that pitch appeals, because sometimes we get very within our own zones, or like there are even like regional ways of expressing things. Like, get a fresh set of eyes to take a look at it, because I think that also helps you appeal outside your niche. Like, if I'm using too much marketing jargon, I'm going to have a designer or developer going, oh, please, like it's not going to appeal to them. So having it have somebody else look at it to cut that middle ground, I think is really helpful.
And the other thing I was going to say is, don't include your name in the description, right? So your name or your website, don't put them in the description. And because when we do a blind submission, at least the way, what my impression is, when I see the name in the description, I think, well, this person's just trying to game the system, right? It might not be the intent, right? There may have been no malintent, but it's what goes through my mind when I'm reviewing these things.
And I will say that, we tried to knock some of that out, but if somebody's, if somebody put that in, that was not like an automatic, oh, they're gone, like, just to make that clear.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I'm just giving some tips.
Yeah, I think you talked about, Steve, being, not too short, not too long, and I totally agree. I think 2 paragraphs is like really good, a couple of paragraphs. One of the things that, you said be to the point and everything. One of the things that we don't always think about, but is very helpful to us voting is, what is the audience going to take away from this? Right. So to be able to kind of to go through the talk in its, timeline of, I'm going to talk about this and this and this, and then the audience is going to take away this and it's going to make them better. That was really big for me when I saw people that kind of outlined that. It really made me be able to really understand, here's what they're going to do and here's how this is going to make WordCamp better for our attendees.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think we're coming up on time. That's about it.
It went quick.
Yep. Dustin, what are we going to talk about next week?
So next week, we're going to get back to Nashville. So much cool stuff going on in Nashville. The Top Golf in Nashville just opened today.
Oh, yes.
I know.
Oh, yes.
I'm trying to figure out if I can make it today sometime. Go for a minute, Oh,
Top Golf is great.
It is. It is fantastic. And then we have the Red Bull Flugtagen tomorrow downtown.
Oh, nice.
Super cool. Yeah. And then the Seahawks are in town to be the Titans on Sunday. So, how can you beat any of that?
Rockin' thing.
Right?
I would say, and actually hilariously, being like the little foodie that I am, there, like cooking channel, it's like, did you guys just decide it's like Nashville theme month or something? Because between food truck races and Top Cooks and all these shows, if you were a Food Network junkie like I am, I'm like, whoa, Nashville, way to represent. This past month has been all Nashville food. I'm like, thank you for focusing. So I'm so excited to hear about some of that, because Lord knows I'm going to eat my way through Nashville.
Absolutely.
It's going to be exciting.
All right. We will see you all next week. Have a great weekend. And Brett, thanks for being on.
No problem. Thank you.